You're listening to I Love This TV Show, The Golden Girls.
The Golden Girls, Season 3, Episode 18 and 19, Golden Moments, Part 1 and Part 2. Original air date, February 13th, 1988. In this episode, Rose comes into the kitchen with a can of cat food behind her back. Dorothy and Blanche get upset at her for feeding the stray cats. Sophia joins them in the kitchen and identifies the kind of cat food. She then tells them she is moving out tomorrow. Phil's wife left him. They then argue about how Sophia came to live with them. They replay the scenes of when Sophia first arrived in the pilot episode. Back in the kitchen, Dorothy is furious. Even Rose and Blanche are not happy. Sophia then goes on about how they always have to bunk up. The episode with Jean is featured. Then we see scenes from previous episodes supporting Sophia's statement. Back in the kitchen, Sophia discusses Phil's wife. Then Sophia points out all the bad relationship decisions they have made. Then they replay scenes of different men that the women have gone out with. First, Blanche and Dirk. Then Dorothy with the priest. Then Blanche's calendar of men. And Rose's psychiatrist, who is a little person. Back in the kitchen again, Sophia tells them they are strong and don't need her, and that the help Rose needs is hard to find. That night, Dorothy is upset because she hasn't been able to convince Sophia to stay. Blanche goes to get the cheesecake out of the fridge, but there is none. Rose comes in with a cheesecake. Rose points out most of the time they talk about sex and men while eating cheesecake. Then we see scenes where the ladies talk about men and sex and even menopause. Back in the kitchen, they are still worried about Sophia leaving. Sophia enters the kitchen and is already mad at Phil. Sophia says they fight all the time. Then we see scenes of various fights between the ladies. In the kitchen, they turn the topic back to sex again. Blanche points out that it's never dull at the house. Then they play scenes of excitement and craziness. First, Rose shoots the vase, the dead man in Rose's bed, and the play where Blanche had the inflatable breasts that popped. Rose says she is going to miss Sophia's advice. Then we see scenes where Sophia gives advice and tells stories from Sicily. We hear about Mama Celeste, the marathon, and the widow who served as the doctor in her village. Sophia pops back into the kitchen again and informs them that now she's staying. Everyone is shocked. Phil's wife came back. Everyone joins in a group hug. Favorite quotes. Sophia. Listen, I love you all dearly, but I have to go where I'm needed, and Phil needs me. Sophia. Please, you've ridden more winners than Willie Shoemaker. Sophia. You need the Wizard of Oz. Blanche. Let's slice this baby up and see if we can solve our Sophia problem. Sophia. There are more fights here than at Caesar's palace. This episode starts out with Sophia announcing that she is moving out the next day and gonna go live with her son Phil because his wife has moved out, has left him. And everybody is completely shocked. And one of my favorite aspects of this episode is the fact that they recall so many different memories from previous episodes and show how well they are all connected and how well they get along and how much of a family these four ladies really are and how integral Sophia truly is to that family connection that they have in this house. And with her moving out and announcing that she's moving out, it really feels like she's breaking up the family. You know, I mean, it's kind of like a death because Phil does not live close by. She has to get on a plane to go to live with him. So if any of them want to go see her, they would also need to get on a plane. You know, Blanche is scared of flying, I believe, although she does fly a lot. Oh no, wait, it's not Blanche that's scared of flying. Blanche just wants to sleep with every pilot and every co-pilot, granted that they're men, and anyone else on the plane whose number she can get. But it's Dorothy who we learn at one point has a fear of flying. And that does seem a little contradictive because there are other episodes where she discusses traveling from New York to Miami, from Miami to New York, and it does kind of seem like in those instances she flew. I don't think she would drive from New York to Miami or from Miami to New York, but that's one that's always kind of bothered me. But I do appreciate that in this episode, they're all discussing different things. Each one is really upset for a different reason about Sophia leaving. With Dorothy, I clearly understand that one the best because Sophia is her mom. She doesn't want to lose her mom. And it's really hard to lose your mom. And with Blanche, it's more like they have kind of almost a love-hate relationship. Because Sophia's always poking fun at her and teasing her for all of the men that she sleeps with, and that men and sex are the focal point of her life. And with Rose, I think Sophia tends to feel more like she's Rose's caretaker almost, because Rose is not exactly Dorothy or Blanche. Rose is a whole different character altogether. And a lot of times she comes off as needing a lot of help. She doesn't really. She's actually a lot smarter than everyone gives her credit for. But at the same time, too, the way she phrases things and says things just kind of takes the girls by surprise from time to time. And I know it drives Sophia completely insane. But it's not Rose trying to be annoying or anything else. I mean, she grew up in St. Olaf. It was a very different world than in Miami or New York or in Atlanta where Blanche grew up. This was a farming community. This wasn't an urban city center. And so you grow up differently, you think differently, you talk differently, you act differently, and you view the world differently. And I think that Betty White really did an amazing job in this series, the way she portrayed Rose, because she usually is cast as the sex pot role. And I know that originally Rue was supposed to play Rose, and Betty was supposed to play Blanche, but they were both kind of bored playing of those roles. And I think that their switch, they just did an amazing job in both of these roles. Blanche, never one moment do we doubt that Blanche is a sex pot, obsessed with men, a sexaholic. And never at any point do we ever have any doubts about Rose being basically this kind, caring farm girl who they tend to categorize as a simpleton. They're very, very good in these roles and so believable, and they're just so endearing in these roles. And in the pilot of this show, Coco is there as the cook, and he's only in the pilot because they bring Sophia in. And it's why this episode, why everybody gets so upset, I believe, is because they removed Coco from the show to make room for Sophia to be a full member of the show because of what the chemistry was, because of how well the characters all gelled together, and because she really kind of brought them all together as a family unit, being that mother character, where I don't really picture Dorothy or Blanche or Rose as a mother. We do see them interact with their kids from time to time, who are grown adults, just like Dorothy is a grown adult with Sophia, but their interactions with their kids are very different than the way Sophia interacts with Dorothy and Blanche and with Rose. Now, Sophia may not have always been the best mother to Dorothy from some of the stories and some of the things that we learned throughout the course of the show, but it's just a bit surprising because of the mother role that she takes on in regards to Blanche and in regards to Rose. And I think that sometimes when Dorothy gets so angry with Sophia, it's because she wishes Sophia treated her growing up the way she treats Rose and Blanche now. And I think the relationship that Blanche and Rose have with Sophia is how Dorothy would have liked her relationship to be with her mother throughout the entire course of her life, instead of just having a relatively good relationship now. When we see flashbacks and stuff, we see very different sides of Sophia in regards to how she was a mother to Dorothy. And some of the things that were done and said, I sometimes find a bit shocking and horrifying. But that's probably just because in the same situation, my mother would have been very, very different in how she treated me. And so we all look at that through the eyes of our relationship with our mother. And by the time we get to this episode, Blanche's mother has passed on and Rose's mother has passed on. So Sophia really is the only mother figure left. And they're all really truly upset because it is like losing their mothers again if Sophia moves out and goes and lives with Phil. And they've already had to go through that trauma once. They don't want to go through it a second time. Thanks for tuning in to the I Love This TV Show podcast. If you would like to make a donation in support of this podcast, you can through Cash App to Pasta26MC. That's pasta like the food, the number 2, the number 6, M as in monkey, C as in cat. If you would like to sponsor this podcast or advertise on it, please send an email to podcast@pastasworld.com. As always, you can go to pastasworld.com for more information.